Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour. We're finally back.
I'm like, it's like a puppet, right? I was speaking, right? So I was like moving my mouth. Well, welcome to the Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour. It's been a little while. I think the last one was November, October. So it's been a little while. So welcome back, everyone. Today, I think the camera right now is like pointing at me, right? I'm not quite sure if there's anything that's...
No, we can't see.
I can't see them yet. Okay, so, well, you know, this show was supposed to start at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. Right now, it's about 11 minutes to 2. The reason why we started a little bit early is that we would like to announce something. It would be a bigger announcement, but for those of you who actually care to watch us a little bit early, you get a little bit of first glance at the this thing.
Yeah,
so,
thanks everybody that was excited enough to tune in 10 minutes early. That's awesome.
So, last year we did have a few super rare knives that you don't get to see them like every day. And because of the high demand, and it's just really, it was not really fair for everyone, so we decided to do a knife raffles. So, we want to switch the camera?
Yeah.
So,
here, let's go to our hand shot there.
we have these knives. For those of you who knows a bit about knives, you probably instantly recognize a few of the boxes, knives, and shapes. So, we will do a raffle on those knives for you to purchase. We'll draw names, and we'll give you 24 hours usually to complete transaction. So Nathan will explain the details about this knife raffle as well. There will be a link in description about the details. But while Nathan is talking, I'm just gonna open it up and show this nice knives.
Awesome. Yeah. So for everybody that's noticed, we started a little early today. Excuse me. We have got some rare knives, as Naoto said, where we are raffling off the opportunity to buy them. And so these guys there's a raffle that's open now. There's a link in the description of this video through the blog at knifewear.com. And you can enter there. You can put in your email address if you are interested in purchasing one of these. You can enter for any of them, as many as you want. You can only enter one time, though. So make sure you check off any of the knives that you are interested in. And basically, how it's going to work is we've got 2 weeks to enter. And then in 2 weeks on Friday, March the 3rd, at about 1:30 in the afternoon, we are going to go live again. We've got another live stream coming up that week about home butchery, and we'll start a little early, and we will draw the raffle winners. And so if your name is drawn, you will have over the whole weekend to purchase the knife, because I'm not going on Saturday and drawing more names. So you'll have until Monday at noon to snag the knife if you want it and you have the funds, and then. If you don't buy it by Monday at noon, Monday the 6th, then we'll draw another name and somebody else might have an opportunity. So we've got the Shibata Tinker mini tank there. We've got the 2 Hinora river jumps in those beautiful wooden boxes. And then we've also got a Shigefusa Kita Eji 240 Gyuto, right?
Yes, yeah. 240 Gyuto Kita Eji.
Yeah, so again, if you are interested in buying one of these, we have a raffle. You enter your name. It's totally free to enter, and whichever knives you're interested in. And if we draw your name, then you will have the opportunity to buy one of the knives that you put your name down on.
Oh, wow.
I never get sick of looking at those river jumps.
I know, right? It's got the really nice... So this river jump, 210?
210, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I hope so. I said 210.
210 with a beautiful, beautiful quint handle with a double water buffalo horn.
Yeah, it's a stunning knife. I mean, these are all 4 of these are, I think, what we'd call collector's pieces, but also incredible to cut with. Like,
absolutely.
They're not just jewelry. They're They're functional art pieces, as we're fond of saying. Yes, these Hinoras are beautiful blades of sun.
I'll open the Shigefusa as well.
Yeah, the Shigefusa. I mean, these are crazy, crazy cool knives. These often will just disappear off the website without even having a product photo. They're that legendary.
I know. Well, we didn't have them before, and we didn't have a product photo.
Yeah,
so
and they just sold. So this time we do have photos, so you can go on the website and you can ogle the photos for a couple weeks before it sells, and you can even enter for a chance to purchase this one. I think this guy's about 2,500 Canadian.
I can't remember.
Oh no, I think the River Jumps. I'll open up that
about,
blog. I think the River Jumps are about 2,500.
Yeah.
Let's find out here. So the Tinker Mini Tank is 540 Canadian dollars. The Hinora River Jumps are each 2,551 Canadian dollars, and the Shigefusa is 1,552 Canadian dollars.
The Shigefusa.
And the exchange is really good right now for our friends in the U.S. So now's the time.
Yeah.
I was looking at buying some stuff out of the U.S. the other day, and it's painful.
Yeah.
It's like 1.4.
For us going down the States or buying anything from the States, it's very difficult these days, right?
Sucks.
Yeah. But so yeah, these guys will be on. So just leave your name down, and just chance to buy one of these beautiful knives here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. No, there's a nice camera right here, so I'm like looking.
Making sure it's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I don't know like which camera is
I know,
actually shooting it right now. Right.
We gotta get you a monitor for next time.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It would be nice if I have a monitor here so that I can see like what I'm looking at.
We have some better streaming gear, but we still got a couple things we need to upgrade.
But yeah, it's been great. It's been a great year. Last year was fantastic. This year I'm like so excited. A lot of new things happening.
Yeah, we got a video coming out in, I don't know, probably a few weeks or a month about Naoto's kind of most anticipated blacksmiths. To keep an eye on this year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And another exciting announcement before we get going today is we just hit 20,000 subscribers on YouTube back on Monday. So thank you everybody for supporting. We've all been putting a lot of work into these videos, and so we're really enjoying it. We got other good videos coming out soon. Naoto and Mike behind the scenes in the Tojiro factory.
It's coming up on Monday, maybe.
That's this Monday. Yeah. Sky, the week after that, Sky did a video on forcing patinas. Some of you in our Discord were really helpful with some suggestions on techniques. So stay tuned for that one. It's pretty fun and goofy. And yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it 2 o'clock yet?
Yeah. You know what? It's close enough. We're just a couple minutes away. Last time we streamed, we had some audio issues. We've been fighting with our microphones. I think we've got it figured out. But if you notice anything today, just pop a message in chat, and we'll address it as fast as possible. Thanks, folks.
Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Let's move on to actual Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour. Today's topic is how to sharpen. Just gonna set it up in the middle right here. How to sharpen Takeda knives. Takeda knives are one of our favorites, and for a lot of you, I think out there, it is really, really well thought out. It's very popular knife, Japanese kitchen knives. I think if not the most, but it's really, really, really popular kitchen knives.
The most well-known.
Absolutely,
yeah.
right?
They're hard to get, so maybe not. They're hard to get, so maybe not the most owned kitchen knife, but definitely one of the most popular.
It is getting a little bit more harder to get the hands on one of these as well, right? But because it's such a popularity, also the way he forges and the way he sharpens is quite a bit different from lots of other blacksmith and knife sharpeners. So it's really nice to point out how he does the way and why he does the way he does as well, right? So today we're going to talk about the sharpening Takedas. We actually have very interesting, first of all, what I'm going to talk about is the how Takedas are made, how Takedas made his knives, and how Takeda is making knives. We have actually really good comparison here. A knife that owned by Kevin and purchased by him it was here when I first started it. So it was 11 years ago. So it's been, and he had him for probably 5 years prior to that. So this knife here has been here for a very, very long time, like 15, 17 years at least.
Wow.
And we have this piece, one of the batches that came probably last year sometimes. The steel is different, but the construction is quite a bit different as well. So that's what I'm going to talk about first. Then, and also I'm going to talk about a little bit of gear today that I'm going to use. Well, everyone needs this metal plate truing stone. If you are nerdy enough to sharpen your knives, you need a metal plate to keep your stones flat.
Damon Spector says my Takeda needs a go, so this video is good timing. We actually made this same live video a couple years ago. So some of the OGs will remember this one, but it looks like it was filmed on a potato. So we are doing our new and improved 1080p version.
Right. So today what I'm going to use is the several different stones, as you can see. I don't know which camera is pointing out, but I'm gonna start the beveling knife with this Sharpen glass 220 grit stone. It's pretty fast. It retains that the flatness pretty long, and it cuts steel really good. And this one here is Naniwa Diamond 400 grit stone. This is one of those stones that has the diamond kind of mixed into it instead of these guys that's diamond on the surface. This also cuts the steel really fast, retains that the flatness very, very long time. After this, I'm going to use the Naniwa Hibiki stone, vitrified really hard stone to make sure the bevel that I'm sharpening is nice and flat. Then blends the bevel with the Knifewear 1000 stone, like this guy. Then polish the bevel with, today I'm just gonna use very soft Naniwa Superstone 3000 grit. And last but not least, we had a few stones from Takeda's actually workshop. That is this natural stone that he actually finishes his bevel with. So at home use, I would recommend to grab, if that knife is really in good condition, I would probably gonna grab something like a coarse stone, like a 220 or 400. Get a 1000 stone and finish the bevel with a little bit of finer stones like 3000. Takeda-san, because he finishes with the natural stones like these guys, he doesn't really finish like 8000 grit. He finishes his knives with really nice, bitey type of edge with it as well. So that's what I'm going to use today. Before coming into this stream, I did true 1000 grits and the 3000 as well, so they are good to go. And during that performance live stream, if you have any questions, comments, just pop into the comment section, so we'll try to get to as much as possible.
Yeah, we'll kind of answer questions periodically, so if we don't get to it right away, don't worry. I probably didn't miss it. We just got a few comments real quick before we get into it. Beans Pones said, I've always done it with the stone Takeda cells using the eraser method, which is pretty neat. It's a pretty different way of sharpening. Maybe we'll have to talk about that later on in the show. Interesting. Damon Spector has been sharpening it exclusively with the Negura stone that they got from us, just by rubbing the stone over it. I think it's time for a full sharpening. Probably, yeah. Jordan Sue, one of the sharpeners in our Vancouver shop, who's been doing some crazy sharpening lately. Random but useful tip: if you're ever cleaning the back of your Sharpen glass just to see the numbers again, the Knifewear Negura is a blessing. Really only useful if you sharpen a lot. Ta-da! Beautiful.
Yes, I was going to mention that as well, but here, let's start talking about Takeda-san's. The way he does, and that who mentioned that the way he sharpens. Who's the one who sharpens?
That was Damon Spector.
Damon Spector, right? So Damon Spector, like you were right, I've sharpened the way that Takeda-san did, and his way of sharpening is very unique. I will, because from the experience and from being lucky enough, right, like work for the knife shop, and being able to speak the language that they speak, and being able to produce things like a spring hammer and the book, the Japanese Knife Nerd Guide to the Japanese Kitchen Knives. Was it the full title? You know, being involved in those projects was really great because I get to talk to those people, and I'm the one who kind of I'm the first person who is actually listening to what they say, right? So it's been fantastic, and I get to go to visit Takeda-san and saw him how he forges, sharpens, and everything, right? So it's been really, like I'm pretty blessed in terms of that kind of perspective. So over the years, Takeda-san's been evolving his techniques and the method that he makes kitchen knives, right? No doubt about it. We have 2 Takeda knives today, one of which is Kevin, the shop owner, the original knife nerd's original knife. I don't know, for those of you who may remember knife, the poster, I think he poses with the Takeda knives in front of his eyes, one of his eye, like this. This is that knife. This one here is Gyuto, and Nathan, would you actually mind bring in the ruler so that I can actually do the measurement on this one? But this one here is Gyuto big. The reason why I can tell is that there's actually this engraving, it says big. He doesn't use any of the length when he sells the knives. We do put the approximate length because, you know, people do expect that the knife to be in a certain length, right? So right now, if you actually look at go to a website and look for a Takeda Gyuto large.
Can you just put your hand out there?
Yeah.
So we can get, yeah, there we go. The camera just wasn't focused.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you go to our website right now and look for the Takeda Gyuto large, can you tell the length on that one?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can just go to, you might hear me typing there, but large, 270 millimeters is what it says.
This here is only 25 centimeters or 250 millimeters.
And that's supposed to be the large one, hey?
It's a large one. So this is Sasanoha large. So Sasanoha large is closer to 27. So he's changing the way he forges. He didn't change the way he, puts their stamps on, but he changed the way he forges. One of which definitely is the thickness. His mind, and I agree with him quite a bit as well, is that sharpest knife is the thinnest knife, right? When he went to learn about forging and the methods like that, he went to see this plane maker in the Miki area, the Chiyozuru-san. And what he told Takeda-san is that, hey, you know what, Takeda-san, the sharpest blade is the thinnest blade. And you know the sharpest thing? It's nothingness, because it's the thinnest thing ever, right?
That's such like a bullshit like Buddhist answer.
Exactly, right? It's very
the
zen.
Sharpest knife is nothing.
It's a very zen. Anyways, so he took that and he aims to forge the knife as thin as possible. So from here, I totally forgot to grab a caliper, but the thickness of the spine on the Takeda's Gyuto from 15 years ago here is about as twice as thick as this Sasanoha that was forged in probably like a year ago. So he forges a lot thinner on even the spine as well as this flat here. Even he has a little bit of concavity right here. It kind of gets a little bit lower. And in order for him to put the edge on, he raised it right here on the bevel and sharpens them. Okay? That's why his bevel had become so much narrower over the years. What that means is that if you look here, this is his original bevel. It's about 1 centimeter, so like half inch or so, right? Where if you look at this here, the bevel is only like 5 millimeters high. So by forging it thinner and more, he had to do this very shallow beveling, right? Also, because he forges so thin, he had to put the bevel like this. But if he puts the cobalt or the last micro bevel on, well, I guess like let's put it this way: he couldn't put the regular bevel, like regular by means, like it's it's like these guys. I don't want to say it's irregular. It's like other people do.
More of a
Yeah. If he want
more of a common design.
common design.
Yeah.
If he wanted to put this wider bevel, it's really, really difficult. It's not really forged that way. Right? Therefore, he had to make it this way. It's got a great benefit of actually forging into this though, because because it's short bevel and it has got a little bit of a concavity on this flat part, hira or whatever you want to call it. When you cut it, it will create the little air pockets and food falls off really, really easy. Especially,
it's funny you mentioned that because Blank was just saying the interesting thing to me is that Takeda is that he basically forges in an S grind, as it's kind of called in the Western knife world, which in his opinion is why they have such great food release, and it sounds like that's the case.
It's got a great food release for sure, especially when you're cutting things very thin. But at the same time, though, it's not calm. But for those of you who thinks it does have great food release. But say if you're going to cut the carrots thicker, this will wedge them a little bit easier. Because the bevel angle, because how he forged, he has to make this bevel angle a little bit higher than the other more commonly beveled knives. So it has a little bit more wedging factor to it. So when you're cutting, like say, when I'm cutting daikon, making the oden, those daikons are usually about the 2 inches thick or 5 centimeters or taller. When you're cutting that daikon, it will break them in the middle. Or cutting into yam, if you're slicing them, julienning it, that's fine. But if you're gonna cut it into say inch thick, or even half inch thick maybe, or cutting in the middle, it will split them a little bit.
Interesting. Right? Yeah. So it's kind of a trade-off, as it is with any knife. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So are we good to get into sharpening then?
One last thing that I want to mention before I get to go there is that he uses the method that's called uses handheld stone. That's his invention. He came up with it, and he's so proud. If you go on actually his website, you can watch him how he sharpens. The way he sharpens is that he draws basically put the lines on the bevel with the Sharpie, and have this handheld stone and do this. It's a great way. I'm just gonna do the basically same thing but using the stone.
Okay, cool.
So
yeah, that makes sense. Before we get into it, James Wang is asking, I've been considering getting a set of Nanawa diamond stones, 400, 1,000, 3,000, 6,000. Just wondering what's your opinion on them. I want them, but they are hella pricey.
The Naniwa, if you have so I'm going to use the Naniwa 400 today as well, and I'll explain why I use the 400. And I use them for specific purposes rather than a generic use. Let's put it this way. It is great stone for very specific purposes, but if you don't find it that use, like if you don't find that purpose, it may not be a necessary.
And now I remember you used one in your recent single bevel sharpening video. What is that purpose? Like, where would you need those stones?
So the say I'm just gonna get this one here. So
You're starting on that 400 today, right?
I was gonna start from 220.
Oh, okay.
But the 400, well, the diamond stones are great. Diamond, as you probably know, it cuts the steel really, really fast. The instead of using aluminum oxide or chromium oxide for the like white alumina or the green carborundum, diamond is hotter, so it cuts the steel a little bit and a bit faster as well. And also, instead of having those like diamond plates to do the sharpening, it doesn't leave as deep of scratch. So this stone is fantastic for those steels, like high abrasion resistant stainless steels, like ZB189 or the Hot 40 and those steels. If you find, or like, grinding the bevel down on the really, like, yeah, again, Ginsan stainless steel, single bevels and stuff, that you really need to grind the steel quite a bit, and that steel has the more higher abrasion resistant. This is great.
Blank said if you have high vanadium steels, they're a very good choice.
Yeah.
Cool.
But if you don't find those or not, you don't need them. I use this 400 for the initial removal steel on the bevel, and also it's great. It really retains the flatness very long as well. But it is expensive stone, especially considering there is only 1 millimeter thick layer of abrasive things. Nathan paused.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's only like the 1 millimeter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not a big stone.
No.
Oh my God, that's an expensive
So
stone.
yes.
Now, would you say the whole set's worth it? The 400 all the way up to 6,000, or
I'll
would you
probably
only get a couple?
Just a couple is fine. Like we have them just to test the water and see how it goes. But the I really like the 400 in terms of the purpose I was expecting. Grind the steel, nice and fast and everything. But I think Francis in the Vancouver shop, he likes 600.
Interesting. We got a lot of opinions about people's experiences with their Takedas, whether they wedge, whether they don't wedge. It sounds like it's a very personal thing, and it works a little differently
As I
for
said,
everybody.
though, the way he forges changed it over time. So the one might have the knife from 5. You can't make just single judgment because he changed the way he forges over time, right? Right. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so,
That's good to know. That's really helpful.
and like anything though, right? Like I've seen, like, we're very fortunate, right, Nathan? Because we worked here for long, so that we saw the progression
Yeah.
and each batch that he does. So, and yeah, so that's totally, it's great that there isn't a conversation, but there's no like one single truth. What I feel though, especially say, I don't know, like it's not common to cut the daikon in the thickness in the Western cooking, which I do, right? Because I do make a.
Yeah, if I cut daikon, it's pretty much just to pickle it.
Right.
In like julienne.
Where I cut, like I cut the daikon this thick, and I was making so, and particularly I use a very thin knife to cut the daikon with that. So.
Okay, real quick before we get going, and then we'll get into it. We'll get to questions later. James Wang said, "Aha, thanks for the explanation. Maybe I should have gotten them before I worked on the Algami Super Hanyaki not too long ago.
Yeah.
It took me over 30 hours to polish it."
Yes, that would have been really, really good. Well,
Yeah, but you liked it, James, didn't you?
Alrighty. So, actual sharpening on, let's get it on the actual sharpening. Actual sharpening on a Takeda isn't that actually hard, because he puts the bevel. It's like it's a guideline. It's your guide. So really, all you have to do is to set the, put the knife flat, apply the pressure where it make actually the contact with the bevel, and go at it until you raise the burr. Right?
Right.
It's very simple.
It's a simple process.
Yes.
And we do have a video, a kind of old video that goes in depth pretty thoroughly. But do you have any tips in particular if you are? Because most of the folks watching, I'm guessing, have probably thinned a knife. We can definitely go over some of the basics. But
Yes.
specific tips or tricks for doing it, Takeda?
The really the way he sharpens. So he finished sharpening. So here's a little bit of not a trick. For probably those who's watching knows that he finishes the knife with the handheld stones. But also that those knives, creating the bevels and stuff, has done by the big wheels, right? Right. So it's not like he doesn't. He forces the steel into the basically blank, and in order he sharpens this part first to use this. He calls it sanshaku, or it's a big wheel stone that's about 1 meter in diameter. He bevels it kind of weird though. You've probably seen those big wheels work. They use the whole surface. He does it on. He actually makes the 2 bevels like this. It's beveled.
He bevels the wheel.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he used the one side, and he used the other side.
Oh, so he gets a flat spot.
Yeah.
As opposed to a rounded grinding and concave.
But still, that's makes a cavity. But
Right, because it's still a round surface.
yeah, exactly.
Oh, interesting.
But he bevels it, so he does that. Then he actually puts that on the one of those horizontal wheel, like the one we use. And I saw the Shosui-san, Yusui-san, his one of his apprentice, working on the making sure the bevel is nice and flat. Then he puts on this wood plate and work on the thing, right? So it's a multiple processes. So it's not like he's doing everything by that. Anyways, one of the things that you have to be a little bit careful is that the way he sharpens is this, right? Puts the knife on the plate like this, and he sharpens it this way, or he goes like this way, right? It's a great way. I will finish this knife with this method, but by doing this for every step I do has a little bit of a negative impact or negative effect on this knife, because it's really hard to keep my angle the same as I go this way. Oftentimes I do more round edge. I don't know if you see.
Yeah, you end up changing your angle so the edge ends up more convex.
Yeah.
I've sharpened my Scandinavian knives that way intentionally.
Right. So
but not necessarily what you want in this case.
If you want that, that's fine. But I would usually just make sure apply the pressure the same, and hopefully I'm not on that. And make sure see where I'm sharpening with the stone. And try to sharpen them evenly.
Just bring your head back a little bit, Naoto. We're getting a lot of head from Naoto.
So, and I will talk about how to raise the bevel as well for some of you may be interested in doing that stuff.
Yeah, that's definitely, I imagine it varies from Takeda user to Takeda user, but if you do feel like your knife is wedging, I know there's definitely folks out there that want to raise the bevel and thin it out a bit. So Naoto, right now you're just basically getting the process started, the bevel thinning process started.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
So if anybody has questions while Naoto's working on this, this is typically the slowest part of the sharpening process, but it's arguably the most important, certainly the part you need to spend the most time on and get right first.
How's my head?
Haven't had any complaints.
Good.
I just had a good comment while you're doing that. Good comment from Blank Blank. I have a different brand of resin bonded stone, and it has outlasted my Sharpen, my Chosera, my Kings, even my Kiriyama. just talking about those Nanawa diamond stones, the resin bonded ones. Yeah. And Beans Pones said, I've been using Takedas since 2003 professionally, and I agree, he's always innovating on the details. I've recently gotten a few more from the last 2 years and love the updates.
So it's great, right? Like he always tries something new, and like when I ask him like why he does the way or forges the way he does, he's like, because it is very unique way of forging the blade and also creating the bevel, right? And he's like, that's how it's been.
It's unique to us who see all these dozens of different makers, but to him, I guess it's the way it is,
exactly,
right?
Right. So it's like it's the way that's been passed down, right? He's the third gen in his family.
So that's an interesting thing to mention. Then I guess I've never actually thought about this. Is this a design that Takeda-san came up with, or is some of it the way he was taught?
So the original, I guess I don't know if you've ever seen or if any of the viewers have seen the knife made by him with the Aogami number 1. Not the super 1. It says A1 on the blade.
No.
Okay, I have. I'm lucky enough. I think Kevin had one or something before, or we've sold it before, or something like that. When you look at that A1 knife that's made by him with the Aogami number 1, his knife looks more like a Tosa knife. It's a little bit thicker. It's not as thin as this. The bevel is actually a little bit taller. And over the years, he's changing it. So in that way, right?
Yeah, they've really. I mean, it's just like an artist, right? Like you see an artist over the course of a decade or two, and their style changes so significantly.
Look at a Picasso, right?
Yeah. Or even like to use a Japanese example, you watch look at like a manga, the first issue versus the 30th or whatever, and the style's completely different. It looks like somebody different.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Well, do you have time for a question while you're working on that bevel there?
Yeah, sure.
It's a pretty straightforward one. When sharpening a Takeda, are you aiming to achieve as close to a 50-50, even on either side, bevel as possible, or are you just going by feel, aka by the burr?
I aim for the 50-50. He's really good though. Despite the thinness that he forges into, he does such a great job exposing the core steel evenly from both sides. It's actually really hard because as you forge into this piece of steel into very thin, it gets squished, and as you can see, it's how thin that the Takeda knives are. It still has a 3-layer in here, right? So.
Right.
He has to do really good job making sure it exposes the core steel evenly. He does that for you, right? So you don't really have to try too hard to make sure. So I just follow his direction, especially for Takedas.
Cool. And then will you just keep an eye on how much core steel is exposed on either side and make sure it's consistent? Okay, that sounds simple enough, even for somebody like me. Jonathan Chi was asking if we'll be talking about sharpening his kogatana as well. We won't specifically be sharpening one today, but is there anything you would do differently?
No, really. It's pretty much the same. Like there's the one that Kevin made. I can show you how it's done, but it's pretty much the same.
Cool.
Just follow the bevel, and you could, for the kogatanas, you could put the micro bevel on it. Takeda-san, the reason, well, he doesn't put the micro bevel on it. 2 reasons. One of the reasons why many or most knife makers have the koba or the micro bevel or the secondary bevel is that because they forge into and leaves a little bit of thickness, they have to sharpen. Is that this camera?
Oh, yeah. Bring back the hands there.
So because they leave the thickness right here, they have to, bring the bevel up here so that this bevel angle is very, very shallow, right?
Yeah.
So if you leave the edge like this without putting the last cobalt or the micro bevel, the edge will become very, very fragile. But because Takeda-san attained this thinness by forging into it, he was able, so basically here, he attained that with the forging, like how thin that is. So basically this whole bevel, he didn't need to make the really thin bevel, but instead he had to come up with the edge that's good and also strong enough. But
Cool.
his edge is great because the core exposure is so minimal. Have you ever seen the big chipped Takeda?
Yeah, one that
Got into the accident?
no, what? No, oh my God, I'm gonna embarrass myself in the Calgary cooking scene. Who's the fellow that owns Model Milk? Who's the chef? Mike, who's your old boss?
The Hello Sunshine guy? The Justin LeBeau?
Justin LeBeau, yeah, thank you. Yeah, when I first started at Knifewear, Justin brought in his Takeda, and he was just like so enamored by his new knife that even though he knew he shouldn't, he broke down the whole peg with it, and it worked. But he also chipped it. That's the only Takeda I've ever seen in a decade of working at Knifewear.
Yeah, but it's very actually difficult to chip his knife because the core exposure is so minimal, right? Right. Look at this guy here.
So that protective soft steel on the outside is really doing its job.
Exactly.
That's really cool. Okay, while you're working away on that guy, oh, we can see the top of your head, Naoto. Mercedes said
it's great posture lesson.
It sure is, right? Bring those shoulders back.
Yeah.
We'll just get you one of those like shoulder posture.
Yeah,
correctors.
right.
Yeah. Said I didn't know how to sharpen a Takeda when I first got one, and I put quite the belly on it. Do you have any recommendations on how to get, I guess, probably the flatness of the belly back?
Oh, so if you have like this one is actually a pretty good example. It's got a really like good curve on it, actually on this bevel here.
Yeah.
Over the years of someone else sharpens it and stuff like that. One is need patience, right? The aim for the finger, like apply the pressure where you aim, and basically go at it until it's like really like any sharpening, I guess, right? Like patience will be paid off, but apply the pressure. And go at it. See where, like, check pretty constantly where it's actually grinding. Right now, this is actually a really good example. I don't know if.
Yeah, do you want to show us your progress? Do you want to show us your progress so far?
Here.
Yeah.
So.
If you just want to center your hand a little bit, we're almost there.
Here.
Yeah. It's just having trouble. I might just hop up there and fix it for you.
Good. I actually want to show this part here. So this where the black finish ends, and there is a part that's actually been sharpened before. But as I was sharpening it, this part doesn't touch. This particular knife had quite a bit of curve like this way. So what I'm doing right now, just keep the angle the same, go back and forth. To make sure the part I'm sharpening is going to be nice and flat. And as you keep doing it, it'll bring your flatness back on the blade for sure. Okay. You know what I mean? Like so
I'm not sure if they were referring to the flatness of the bevel or the flatness of the profile.
Oh,
so
the
maybe,
profile.
Yeah. So Mercedes, if you're let us know if you're talking about the flatness of the bevel or the flatness of the profile. But yeah, if the profile's gotten rounded off, do you have any tips for that?
Again, it's a little bit hard, but I will raise it really high, fix the profile first, then start thinning it.
So basically just flatten out the profile of the blade at a really high angle. Yeah, okay. That seems simple enough. That's what I was going to suggest, but I didn't know if that would be a mistake. Head.
I was having a hard time, like, what? Head? Oh, head. Head, yes. So the progress here is pretty actually good. The exposing it pretty good. It was not overgrind, but it was sharpened at various different angles on this guy. So if you look here, the color changes.
Can you just center it over the stone a little bit, or we're just getting a bit of focus? Yeah.
How is it?
There we go.
Here, you see this part. Now what's sharpened previously, well, how I sharpen doesn't actually reach to here. Like there's a little bit two lines here.
So you're just making a cleaner separation of the bevel to the face of the knife.
Okay, I'm gonna actually try the next side. So basically, again, it's the same. Put it flat. You don't no gadgets, nothing is needed. It is gonna be a simplest blade to sharpen if you have the, I guess, steady hand, right? Because when you're sharpening Takedas, ones that the Nathan was showing on our other video, how to sharpen, like simplest way to sharpen a knife, those clips won't work because.
No, they won't. Those clips are good for like a beginner sharpener who's just doing the very edge of like a regular knife. But they are definitely limited. And just to follow up on Mercedes' question about flattening out the belly of the knife, do you have any suggestions on the stone that you would use for that? Like just any coarse 200 or 400 grit stone?
Yeah, that's really the easiest. Make sure it's flat, obviously, right? Make sure it's flat. If you could even use, if you have any of those flattening diamond plate, you could use that as well. Because diamond plate, it's great because it retains the flatness very nice and long as well. So I will usually use that to change the bevel or the change the flatness, then start thinning.
Okay, while you're working away on that, this is pretty relevant to what you're doing right now. When you have a brand new Takeda and use it for some time, what would you recommend as a first stone for tuning it up? Normally I would do a touch up, but with the Takedas, you always thin every time you sharpen it. So, any suggestions? Maybe 500 grit.
500 is great. The 220 is fine as well, but it does grind a little bit more. If you use the Takeda, and because there's no micro bevel, all you're sharpening is just the side or the thinning every time you sharpen them, right? I would actually suggest to start from even 1,000. If you maintain your knife pretty well. One thing though about especially Takeda is that if you use the honing rod like we do suggest, it may put a little bit of a small micro bevel to it. So in that case, 500 or something a little bit coarser will remove the micro bevel first, then do a really good job from that on. Make sense? Maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so when you're doing the second side here, you mentioned that you like to switch hands and basically use your left hand to hold the knife instead of the right hand, and you find you can sharpen it ambidextrous pretty well. If somebody's not, like I'm not good at doing that, so would you just flip the knife over and hold it kind of like, I call it like motorcycle style, where you got your hand on the handle there?
You know what? Takeda is great. Takeda is a great knife to learn that ambidextrous sharpening, because you're not making an angle with your left hand.
Okay.
Right? Like,
Right, because it's all built in.
yeah, it's all built in. So this is actually a great opportunity to learn how to do sharpen ambidextrously.
So the answer is, if you want to do it with your right hand, just do it with your left hand.
Practice. I think this is great because it's the easiest. Basically, all I'm doing is just like holding it to place and do back and forth like this, right?
Yeah, makes sense. No, it's, I should just learn one of these days. So maybe I need to buy a Takeda so I can learn how to do it.
Yeah.
Iceman 10438 just said, do you have any tips on, or how would you sharpen the tip of a Kiritsuke? Any tips for that? Like, normally, and Blank had said this, normally you just lift the handle a little bit to increase the angle slightly.
Yeah,
I mean, the angle's a little flatter on some, like a Moritaka Kiritsuke, so it depends.
It's the same. It's like, say, if I were to because this could be a Kiritsuke without, having that, tip cut off like this, right? Or should I just do this?
Yeah.
Right? So the angle should be very similar. Some people do leave the Kiritsuke a little flatter. Traditional Kiritsuke is a little bit more flatter, right? But because it is designed to cut the things like a jello.
Right.
It's like big, usually like it's called nagashimono or yosemono, right? The gelatin or the nikogori. It's a Japanese. It's like gelatin. Like you cook the
Like a head cheese or a...
Yeah, like that, right?
Or a terrine kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Japanese use the fish bone to get the gelatin out, or if you cook enough fish in the broth, and if you cool it down, they actually get a brilliant gelatinous.
Okay. Yeah. So Kiritsuke is originally for cutting that.
Cut into that's so it's
So it's not for the head chef like
it's not. But it should be flat because to cut into that thing, right? But now the Kiritsuke basically means that the Kiritsuke tip, right? So it doesn't matter how the edge profile looks like. So, but if the angle of the Kiritsuke goes up, just raise it. I was actually teaching one of the newer guys here and how to sharpen the tip of the knife. And, I told him, don't be too afraid to go overboard. It does look much higher angle than you're supposed to. It will look, and if you make one or two mistakes, that's fine. I made a lot of mistakes while I was working at the shop. One time I scuffed one of the mirror polish knife, and the Mark at a time spent hours polishing it out with the sandpaper and stuff like that, right? So
I never want to sharpen another mirror polish knife again for that exact reason.
No.
It just scared me too much now. Beans Bones said, when I was sharpening professionally, I came across quite a few Takedas who the Kurochi finish had rubbed off, which honestly just happens with time. It's not a permanent finish. It will rub slowly or quickly if you scrub it. But guessing that was from slurry getting on fingers when people were sharpening it. Have you seen that?
It can happen any right? Because just regular wash. If you have, say, Kurochi, the original AS or the Aogami No. 1 Kurochi knife, and accidentally rust your knife, the best way to clean it is either use the barkeeper's friend or some mild abrasive. And best way to do it, for my opinion, is to have it on the cutting board like this. Get the scrabby and do this so that you don't cut yourself, right? I don't know if that, do this and do this. By doing so, it will remove the little bit of black off. So it can,
Unfortunately, part of having a Kurochi knife is just, knowing that the Kurochi finish will slowly wear off. But if you take good care of it, I've had my Moritaka Ishime for 12 years, and it's still got the majority of the Kurochi finish on it. Blank said the devil invented mirror polishes. Yeah, sounds about right.
Mirror polish is great. It's I don't know if I should we have a couple mirror polish knives, right? The one of whom is I'm just switched the stone to Diamond 220. The reason why I did that is Diamond 400. The reason why I did that is that there are few spots that I need to work on a little bit.
So do you wanna explain this step a little bit then, and what we're doing on the stone?
You could start from this diamond 220 stone for the initial grinding of the 400 for initial grinding on the bevel for sure. It is really nice and fast stone. Sometimes it's too fast that grinds off too much of the one spot than others, so you have to be a little bit more careful. But the also because it's really nice flat hard stone, so that retains. Well, it also tells you how your bevel health, I guess, how bumpy your bevels are and stuff like that.
I'm trying to think of a good analogy, but it's basically, it basically tells you how good or bad of a job you've done, or how good or bad the condition of the bevel is in. Hey?
Mm-hmm. But
okay, well, while you're working on that, once you've kind of got that contrast built up from that stone, do you want to show us up close?
sure. Well, this side is actually really nice. You can see the.
Okay, so that to my not super trained eyes, it looks like the bevel's fairly consistent. Is that the case?
It's pretty nice and consistent on this guy here for sure. The back side, there are a few spots that I wanted to remove more steel, so that's why I kind of went back or went to diamond. Diamond 400 stone is again great, especially for the AS steel or something that has more higher abrasion resistant steels, because it cuts good. But you don't need them if you're happy with what you have and how fast it's grinding. I'm checking the burr on both sides. Takeda burr is great. Even you raise the burr, it doesn't change the profile as much. But I mean, sometimes when you are working on some knives, especially like Usuba, and you have one spot that you raise too much burr and start flake off, and once you take the flaky part off, you ended up with the very weird profile of the knife. Usuba, because you want to keep that.
Yeah, I've done that before.
But also some tip for the Usuba sharpeners. Oftentimes when that happens because Usuba is not straight. So just so you know.
Okay, Iceman's got a question. Is there a special stone for a big knife like 240 millimeter, or how would I maintain a consistent edge? I'm guessing that means like contacting the stone, but really, Iceman, generally you're only going to have a small portion of the knife contacting the stone at any given time, unless maybe you're doing like the edge on a super flat like Nikiri or Usuba. Naoto, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, you don't really need the very big stone. Although, there are some stone makers like Naniwa makes this giant big plate-looking stone. They said it's for Yanagiba. But because it will wear out unevenly, it's very impractical stone, my opinion. They have like this stone.
Yeah, then you need a giant touring stone.
And also giant, you have to wear them like very evenly too, right? Basically, if you think about the construction of the knife, as the Masashi Yamamoto-san told me on our interview, there is no, technically speaking, flat place for forged knife.
Yeah, like there's no three-dimensional flat spot.
Exactly, right? It changed the angle as it goes towards the tip. So it doesn't, because there's a series of stones by Sharpen called the Sharpen 7, I think. And it's a set of 7 stones, and each one is about as twice as small of the regular size stone that we think. It's like this size.
Wow.
And you know what? Really though, where you're sharpening is basically where your fingers are. Right? So as long as there's spot for 2 fingers to actually, sit, that's basically all you need.
Cool.
I mean, I've sharpened it, enough knives that I move my finger as I, sharpen, right? It may be hard, but yeah, that's basically all you need.
Awesome. How's that stone coming along?
It's good. It's good. Okay, so it cut steel really nice and fast. I may want to actually do a little bit more, but let's move on.
And so you're really just flattening the bevel out with that stone.
And yeah, with the
And polishing scratches a
yeah.
little bit. Okay.
Okay,
Cool.
so let's move on to the this Hibiki 1000. I trued it earlier today, so it's pretty nice and flat. Hibiki 1000 is fantastic stone. If you want to make sure that your bevel is really nice and flat, true, this really definitely tells you. It's like it's a vitrified, really hard 1000 grit stone. If there's any low spots, if there's any high, low spots or anything, unevenness on the bevel, this will instantly tell you, because the low spots it won't touch, high spots, it kind of scratches there, just there, right? So
Yeah, that's one thing I've learned from Naoto that's really cool. Is the soft stone is great if you want to hide all the imperfections in the bevel, which is probably what I'd want to do because I'm not very good. And if you're a pro and you want to get the best bevel possible, you want to use hard stones because they're going to show you all the imperfections. And
oh, I forgot to actually, 1 second, I'm just going to do the other side. Sorry, the reason why I switched back to the other side is that because there was a burr already formed from the 2 or 400 stone. I just want to make sure that there is no burr moving on to the other side so that I'm not mistaking to the burr that I've already formed.
okay, while you're just cleaning that up, Spoon Monkey had a great question. The Moritakas set their bevel similarly, but don't forge their knives anywhere near as thin. Why do you think that they went with a shorter bevel compared to what a lot of other makers are
Yes.
doing?
So here, it's actually a good question. Lots of knife makers. So it really depends on how they forge the blade, whether they go super. So Moritaka-san's knives, the bevel is kind of sits in between, right? With the Takeda and the other knife makers. The bevel, for those people who don't really know what we're talking about, basically that's this how tall. This is very typical Japanese knife bevel, I guess. It's about inch tall for the Santoku, where the Takeda-san leaves around 1/4 inch, and the Moritaka-san is about 1/2 inch, a little bit, right? So what happens is how they forge the blade. As I said, a lot of knife makers, blacksmiths, forge the knife into a 3-dimensional, not just a sheet of steel. Takeda-san forges into almost like the spear.
Like an hourglass.
Arrow, yeah.
Like an hourglass.
Hourglass?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like skinny in the middle.
Skinny
Exaggerated,
goes like
but-
skinny in the middle and goes a little bit deeper and that.
Yeah.
Or the arrowheads, right? A lot of takefu people, they do distal taper on the spine, but the thickness kind of remains very similar. They don't have that much of the beveling going on. Where Moritaka-san, how they forge is that they forge into almost like a wedge shape from the spine and gradually to the edge, gradually goes into the wedge shape, thinner at the edge. Therefore, they don't have to have the tall bevel to perform the way that those guys do.
Right, because they're a lot thicker at the spine than they are at the top of the bevel. Okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. So how are we doing on this guy, Naoto?
Doing good, doing good. Let's raise the burr here.
Beans Pone says, appreciate you guys doing all these lives. Been enjoying your guys' latest content. Yeah, thanks, man. We got another live show coming up next in 2 weeks. I'm gonna do some kind of like amateur home butchery lessons. So if maybe not super applicable to professionals, but if you're just starting to learn or you want to learn, maybe you want to save money on groceries. Crazy, I know. So I'm going to show people how to take apart a chicken, just debone a chicken, probably how to bone out like a pork shoulder, something a little bigger, do a bit of skinning, and then maybe we'll see if we can find like an inexpensive whole fish or something. I'm mostly really good at doing chickens. I'm mediocre at the other jobs, but I can show you some basic techniques that you can use at home and what knives you might want to use.
During the holiday season, what I want to see is how to butcher or cut the ham with bone-in ham.
Oh, like how to carve?
Yeah, carve.
Yeah. Yeah, I normally kind of just hack at it a bit.
I know, that's what I do too, yeah.
Like I'm carving a spoon,
Yeah, that's what I do too. But
yeah, how to do it presentation style would be good.
Yeah. Okay. So basically what I'm doing is just feel the burr. There's a subtle burr on all the way here. And this lighting's great. Make sure there isn't...
We're gonna need to get you some of these big overheads for your workshop.
Yeah, right. The light. Yeah, it's good. So this actually tells if there's any bumps, curves, anything like that. It actually shows really good. And switch the hand. Again, Takeda is great knife to practice on ambidextrous sharpening because basically all I'm doing is, like, as you can see here, I'm just putting the pressure and just go back and forth. I don't have to create the angle with my left hand. And as you actually become more comfortable doing this, you'll be able to sharpen on your left as well. That's what I learned.
Yeah, I gotta try it out.
Do just enough, right?
Yeah. Sea-Dog had a quick question. What stones are you using? Sea-Dog, we went over them earlier at the beginning of the video, but if you look under the video on YouTube, there should be a tab or like a little menu of products, like a shopping menu. And so that has all of the stones and other pieces of gear that Naoto is using today listed there.
This particular one is a Hibiki, Naniwa Hibiki 1000.
Blades of Sun is asking, Hibiki 1000 is the same as traditional 1000 question mark?
No, it's harder. It's much harder.
Is the traditional fairly soft? Is that the same as Superstone?
No, traditional is kind of in between the Superstone, and Chaucera in terms of hardness.
Right.
It is a bit harder than Knifewear 1000. Some people prefers that. It's great. Like traditional 1000 is great. Stone kind of sits in the middle. We like Knifewear 1000 because it gives you really nice blending finish, as well as you can put the pretty decent edge on and stuff like that, right? But yeah, traditional 1000 is fantastic stone too.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, this is the Hibiki's like one of the hardest ones out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you like it so much for this step. How are we doing, Naoto?
It's good. It's good.
It's interesting. I saw you checking the edge there, and I'm not used to seeing you check the edge when you're thinning the knife, but forgetting that you don't put a micro bevel on this knife.
No, because that's why I have to.
Yeah.
Make sure there's a burr.
Yeah, make sure you're getting an edge and thinning the knife properly.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, Spoon Monkey was asking me, said, I'm making kimchi this weekend. What's your recipe and process? Is it Takeda good for this? Takeda is definitely good for this because you're going to be cutting lots of Napa cabbage.
Yeah.
So I would say Takeda is a perfect knife for that, or a Mega Nikiri, or something big and beefy.
Napa cabbage is actually really good for like leafy vegetables. Yeah, Takeda is really good.
I use coarse kosher salt. I salt the cabbage somewhat heavily-ish. and let it sit and basically just leach out all its water. And then I blend up the gochugaru and some pear usually, and some fish sauce, and you can use those tiny salted Korean shrimps if you want, and a few other things, soy sauce,
Isn't that a key?
ginger, garlic.
Isn't that key to the kimchi to have that the scary looking
The scary looking shrimps. So I that's been debunked recently.
Oh, really, eh?
I think David Chang is responsible for perpetuating the myth that is responsible for part of the fermentation.
Okay.
But it's not. Kimchi is just lacto fermentation. It's the same as making sauerkraut,
Oh.
but just spicier and more flavor and funkier. And so it'll definitely help with the funk factor, but it's not going to do anything fermentation wise.
Right.
Yeah.
It has a saltiness for sure, and it's
yeah.
got a little bit of umami because the
Yeah.
shrimp has its own amino acid, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like I don't know if you can make an equivalency, but say it's like bisque,
Like bisque.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like use
totally.
the shell.
Yeah,
it's the shrimp.
yeah,
It's a whole bunch of small shrimp.
Yeah, well, I would say so.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, so that's like very roughly my process. I like a lot of green onion in my kimchi, so I cut my green onion into like 2-inch long chunks. Yeah, just like don't wash your cabbage too much because you want those natural bacterias in there. But wash all your equipment really, really well in hot water with lots of soap. And then I put in julienne carrot usually too. That's just like my style. I think that's relatively traditional. But if you want my actual recipe, because I'm not good at remembering stuff, I have it written down at home. So shoot me an email at nathan@knifewear.com and I can email you a photo tonight.
Okay.
Cool. All right. How we doing now, Tom?
Sorry, I just switched the stone to the Knifewear 1000. It's really nice and soft, mild. This will give the really nice, good contrast at the edge here.
Yeah, that looks great.
Right. So my aim is to get the really nice, even, all the way to the heel.
Awesome. Your hair's looking good now, Tom, but it's a little bit in the way. You got a lot of compliments on your haircut on your single bevel sharpening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you guys haven't seen Naoto had a couple great videos come out recently. One is extremely comprehensive, the most comprehensive guide to sharpening single bevel knives that I've ever seen, which was our goal. So I'm glad it went well.
I think it was pretty good. I've watched some Japanese things as well, but I think we covered pretty comprehensively.
The most comprehensive English show. No, but yeah. Yeah, that's a great video. And Naoto did a restoration video on a rusty Yanagiba back in January. I think we got another rusty knife restoration coming in probably April too. We had a Kisuke Manaka knife
it's
that
coming.
got lost in the mail and like thrown in a snowbank and almost destroyed. And it's kind of sad, but Naoto's gonna make it beautiful again. Marco Diamante said, "Could you speak to the leave the lacquer on / take the lacquer off debate?" Now, I don't know if you spend much time on knife forums, but if for anybody that does, they'll know what Marco's talking about.
Yeah,
they come with a protective lacquer. Some people think you should take it off. Some people think you should leave it on. What do you think?
If that bothers you enough, take it off. The easiest way actually is to use the paint thinner, which is not a food safe.
Just wash your knife really well
Wash it
afterwards.
really well. Yeah.
But so we've got a how to patina your knife, like different ways to force a patina video coming out in just over a week with Sky, and she used paint thinner to clean the knives, and it left them like so raw.
Yeah.
And so clean that like water was like starting to patina the knife.
Yeah, that's what the actually the knife makers recommend. If they want to take the clear lacquer off, use the paint thinner. And yeah, it's their recommendation. It's their recommendation, but it's not to take off. If it bothers, do that. If it doesn't, it's. I mean, chemical like it itself. If you consume it in spoonful, I don't think it's a greatest thing to consume.
You don't want to go chugging knife lacquer,
No.
but the amount that's gonna like rub off into your food over the course of several years.
Yeah.
I think the only reason you'd want to remove it is if visually it bugs you, or
exactly, right?
or if because it will wear unevenly,
Yeah.
as will the Kurochi. And so
Yeah.
if you find that like having the knife partially shiny and partially matte looking
Yeah.
starts to bother you, then
There's no advisory like coming from the blacksmith or knife makers about removing it before you use it. Like I'll say Yamada steel frying pan, they have a little bit more thicker, heavier coat lacquer, and they do recommend to burn it off, right? You don't hear that from the
you shouldn't stick your new Takeda in the oven at 500 degrees
Oh
and
no,
burn
no.
off.
Yeah, don't
Don't do that.
Don't season your Takeda.
I'm just being stupid. We did have a comment that really got my brain going in one of our recent. I think it was that video where you fixed Mike's Yanagiba. And somebody was saying, in theory, could you season a carbon steel knife the way you could season a carbon steel pan? You certainly couldn't do it at the same temperatures, but now I'm really tempted, and I feel like we should do an experiment video where we try that.
Kurochi, if you heat treat them again, you can. Right? The Kurochi is from that quenching, right? Heat up to 800 degrees for the carbon steel, 800 some degrees, and they blacken. So if you want to do the exact same Kurochi back, then you can do it, say from here, normalizing it. Normalizing it, then do the another process. You should be able to do that. So right now it's the old martensite. So in order from martensite to bring it back to austenite, there is the temperature. I think you could bring it back to austenite stage and redo it as well.
Just keep your knife dry. That sounds like too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, how are we doing, Naoto?
It's good. Just gonna show it here. It's got nice and even here, even there, here and there. But yeah, technically speaking, you probably can, but I don't know. It's a lot of work. So this stone, if you're at home, I would probably, if you don't have natural stone or any of the Nagura or anything like that, I'm probably gonna stop at 1,000 is great, but this 3,000 will just polish the edge really nice. Use a softer 3,000 so that it shines it a little bit nicer.
And this is just for a Kasumi finish, and
No,
I guess
it's an
for
edge too.
edge
This
polish,
one for
right?
the edge polish too.
I keep forgetting.
See here? See here? Can you see?
Yeah, it looks awesome. Yeah, that's really clear. Blaze's son was asking when you're working on that that Hibiki 1000 Nanowa Hibiki. So the Hibiki is kind of similar to the Sharpen Kuromaku? Question mark.
It's a bit harder than Kuromaku. It is made differently. Kuromaku is the magnesium bond, where the Sharpen or the Hibiki is vitrified. The vitrified has different hardness to it, but this particular one is made a little bit harder. Kuromaku, generally speaking, it's not as quite hard as this Hibiki. I have Kuromaku 2000 and 5000 and 220 at home, so I'm a big fan of Kuromaku. How it responds and how it kind of feels feedback on the knife is very similar to the glass series too, though.
Okay, cool. Man, we got some good conversation going in the chat. I'm falling behind. Here's a good one from Martin, because we were talking about the kind of arrowhead or hourglass shape to the Takeda. How long and after how many sharpenings would the arrowhead shape disappear, like the point, and leave nothing, leaving a more traditional knife profile?
Again, it really depends on how you sharpen them, but probably if you pass this point, like about an inch.
Can you show us again?
Probably if you pass about an inch deep in it, it will probably start to make it more like a traditional knife bevel.
So if you're using your Takeda at home, you're sharpening it once every year or two, like
Or it's
you're gonna have to. It's gonna last you like 20, 30 years at least before you start to run out of that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And if you have a collection of knives like we do, you'll only have to sharpen it every few years and it'll last longer. Spoon Monkey, I ferment my kimchi outside of the fridge because I just like to get it going, and I let it sit there for between 1 to 2 weeks. Burp it daily because the way I make it, I have to make it in the summer, but regardless, as long as your house is relatively warm, it's going to get kind of violent. So leave some headspace in the container, and burp it daily, even twice a day when it's at its most active after a couple of days, because I have overfilled jars and they have spurted and made a mess in my kitchen. If you don't have like a heavy duty jar, it can get worse. The jar can break. So just let that air out regularly. If you have those like silicone burping lids, or if you just leave the put some cheesecloth over top, that might even be better.
My friend of mine, a Korean family, what they had in the basement was kimchi fridge.
I've heard about the kimchi fridge. Yeah, I've had Korean friends tell me about that too.
Yeah, they keep the temperature really nice, and I think not like hot, but not like super cool, like a fridge cool.
Yeah.
So it ferments a little bit slower, I think.
Yeah. So there's the general rule of fermentation is the faster you ferment, the more the less complex flavor you're gonna have. But the more of that like really fizziness you're gonna get, and the more like, I think I might have this mixed up, but I think it stays firmer if you ferment faster. Whereas if you ferment slower at a lower temperature or with more salt, you're gonna get more complex flavors often. But it might get more salt will be more crunchy, less complex flavor, more fizziness, and yeah. Less salt generally leads to a bit of a softer texture. So yeah, it just depends.
Preference,
But I keep mine in the fridge after the first week or two, and it will continue to develop. But I've had kimchi in the fridge for a year, and it's been fine. I just keep it stored in like glass jars. I have these like 1.8 liter glass jars from IKEA with latch tops, and they're pretty much the best vessel for that, unless you have a fancy crock.
It's hard to show the polish here. It's really
No, it looks really good. Yeah, if you do kind of the tilting trick a little bit back and forth, I might. There we go. There we go. Yeah, that looks great.
So at home, like this is great. Like if you don't have any of those, like natural stones or anything like that, when you strop it though with the for the Takeda, you don't want to raise too much on an angle. I would usually follow almost like the bevel angle. Instead of going like 15, I just follow the bevel angle. Right? So that it just takes enough off. I don't know if you've seen the Takeda way of testing the edge.
No.
He tries it with the he does the like this.
Yeah.
And this.
Yeah.
And heel.
I like that. I like that tip test because that makes sure that the tip is good for like scoring onions and stuff.
Yeah. This is how he does, like, and the heel. But because it's like the nerdy hour, what I'm going to do is take it a little bit more extra step. It's basically again the same thing, right? But the here I have this little Nagura stone, shobudani. From the shobudani, it's like a little bit softer stone and Nagura shape. We got it from Takeda-san directly when we were there. And this, you could do it on, I could do it this way. If I have actually a stable, like holder, right? As I said, as I said, the size doesn't matter.
It's how you use
because how you use them, also the where your fingers is, that's where you're sharpening, right? But the this is how Takeda-san does, right? So hold the stone and just do this.
And watch your fingers.
Yes.
I've sharpened axes this way, and I've cut the hell out of my finger, even on a not very sharp axe. I bet you cut yourself a lot worse on a very sharp Takeda. So,
It's already being sharpened, so yeah.
so be careful. Keep your fingers as far away from the edge as you can.
That's why the his Takeda stones are made very good, right? It's longer, double-sided with the hand, so that you can whatchamacallit, your fingers are out of the way.
Takeda's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Okay, got time for a question, Naoto?
Yes.
Nari Watabe is asking, does a toothy edge retain sharpness longer than a polished edge? What grit or what stone do you finish on for the best edge retention?
So there is like really good, or not the debate but conversation, right? Is a toothier edge will hold the edge longer, or is the finer refined edge will hold the edge longer? And I'm aware of it, and it's very hard. I find the little bit toothier edge is going to hold the edge longer. A lot of theories. Toothier the edge is it's almost like a peaks and valleys, like when you're sharpening it, right? So the toothier edge means the peaks and valleys are a little bit deeper, right?
Yeah.
Like this.
And I would think those peaks would be thicker, like fatter too, right?
There has been two theories. So, like, I heard that some Japanese knife sharpeners say finer the edge, like say 8,000, when the tooth peaks and valleys are smaller and shallower, it retains the edge because it has more peaks.
Right.
Where the some other says, no, the toothier edge will hold the edge longer because it's deeper, so that it doesn't wear. Even it wears out, it has still the teeth left.
I can see why the fine edge would make sense. Like why you'd think that would make sense, because it's kind of like the bed of nails. Like if you lie on 2 nails, you're gonna get stabbed. But if you lie on like 500 nails, you're gonna sit on them. I've found from limited experience, that finishing my knives on like 1,000 grit, I just find they keep that like nice cut, like biting edge better. And that's probably just because they have those more aggressive teeth, like cutting into tomatoes and peppers, which are two things I cut fairly often. But yeah, I don't know. We should take a poll.
I personally think it's like middle ground, like 2,000, 3,000 edge will be the best edge for both the sharpness and edge retention. It's a debate. Like, sharpness here, I was like, so let's put it this way. If you're just putting on that knife onto this traditional Japanese Honda-shiki kireaji test, which is the, I think there is similar one in North America or the Europe, that they set the knife like this on a paper, and the knife moves and tells you how many paper it's gonna cut, right? So for that edge retention test, you know what I would think though? The toothier edge will win because it has a lot more toothier. It bites into it a little bit easier and faster, and they will tell you. They'll look at a number of paper they cut. So it kind of slows it down and wears it down. I think toothier edge will have the little bit better results to it. Finer edge is great for those blades, like to use it on plain blades or straight razors that like knives, you cut it this way. Straight razors, you cut. Plain blades, you cut straight. So therefore, you need a little bit of finer blades. For the kitchen knives, the knives that general, I think it should be just leaves a little bit of toothier edge. But when it comes to the actual sharpness of the knife, there are 4 factors on playing the role. Okay, 4 factors. 1, how toothy the edge is, for sure, right? That's the first thing that contacts the food. 2, how thin the blade is, right? Probably about 2-3 millimeters above the edge, how thin that edge is. That will dictate how it splits. 3, how smooth the bevel is. That dictates how easy it is to actually cut it into it. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that affect it.
And I forgot a fourth one, but fourth. So edge, bevel, thickness, and... Oh, damn it. I just taught this to Nolan. We should just call Nolan and
Yeah.
tell me the fourth point. But so not only just the final edge dictates the sharpness, right? There are a lot of tests in knife world to test the very final edge, how thin that is, right? But thinness of the edge itself too. Totally forgot so thinner the edge is, because what happens is that when you're applying the pressure, all the pressure, the power, the force is going to be concentrated into the thin edge there, right? So thinner the edge is, the more force will be concentrated in the spot.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
That's just basic. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the physics of how sharpness works.
So when that comes in play, thinner, finer edge will be sharper. But toothier also is sharper too, right? So there's a lot of things.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. Okay, how are we doing on this guy?
Yeah. So like, I finished with the.
Looks pretty beautiful to me.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. Hopefully, Kevin will be happy.
Awesome. Any final thoughts on that technique? Anything else people should know before we move on?
Again, I wanted to talk to you about the current, I guess, like way he forged the knife here. This is his NAS batch that we got it on a few, like last year sometimes. Nice, super thin here, super thin spine, and bevel is very, very narrow. For those of you who wants to bring the bevel up, you could do it all by your mean. Just be careful because it's very thin blade, and also it has a bit of it's a little bit thinner at some point. So because it has a little bit of a arrowhead type of a concavity in the middle, there is spot that if you do it too low, it will scratch up the blade quite a bit. So just be careful. If you want to bring up the bevel, do it gradually. Try not to say, you have the Takeda, I want to put the blade bevel like the regular other, Masakagi. It may not be possible because how it's really constructed. You will have, either you have to grind a lot of steel off, or because it's got a little bit of concavity, it's not flat, you may find very, very difficult to make it look like Masakagi knives because it's not forged that way, right? I'm gonna can you actually get the caliper from the, I think it's on Ellie's desk. Like the old ones are a little bit easier because it still leaves a bit of thickness on that behind the edge here as well. Thank you. Let's measure it, right? Because it's really fun. So just above the bevel here is the 1 millimeter thick. I guess it kind of continues about 1.1, 1.2. Well, that's 10. And the spine at the same spot on here is 2.445. If you look at this Takeda, this guy here, you have 3.6 on the spine. Oh, it's actually pretty interesting. 1.5 here, but it's a little bit thicker here. I would actually measure the middle of that. I don't know how I can do this.
So you're just trying to measure that like thinnest part of the knife.
Yeah.
Gotcha. You might need a different type of caliper.
Right, the that one with the
Little pincher.
yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, just be careful, right? Because there may be some parts that's lower, and when you find the lower spots, here, because yeah, right here when I'm actually pinching right now, it's 0.99, and at the same spot, at the bevel it's 1.0, so it's a little bit lower here, right? So when you try to again bring the bevel up like a Masakagi, there is going to be really difficult part to get to, and you'll be exposing more steel as well, so the it gets a little bit more vulnerable for chipping.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we got some tips for working on the newer style Takedas as well, or is it more or less the same technique as?
Technique is the same. It's a little bit less spots to not work on, but hold on to, I guess.
Yeah.
Because this way.
It's a little more of a balancing act for your fingers.
Yeah. Like here, I could just like put. There's enough space for my finger to sit here, or this one here is like really narrow. But it's the same thing, right? Work on till you raise the burr. If you again wanted to, like I'm gonna use this guy here. I'm just gonna show you how it may look when you try to bring the bevel up. Because what you want to do is instead of follow the bevel, just basically where your fingers are, that's where it's sharpening, right? So instead of putting on the bevel here, I will put the pressure on the bevel here.
Cool. Higher up so that you're
higher up a little
you're
bit.
grinding higher up on the burr.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's simple, right?
Yeah.
Then
Well, while you're working on that, how about we catch up some questions? We got some good ones. So Grant said, would you please summarize the pros and cons of hard versus softer stones? The sharpness of the actual edge, as well as how it affects the finish.
okay, hard, soft stones. It's like hard and soft stones. I usually explain it as hard stones. In Japanese, we call it hard stones. Touches by its point, where softer stones touches by the surface. So because it's hard, it touches on like spot by spot, so you can see how it's concaved, or it kind of shows spot by spot. Where softer stones try to touch the whole surface.
It's like
so
if you
blends them very
It's
good.
like if you go mountain biking with a tire that's pumped up with a lot of air. It's gonna like touch every rock and like knock into it, bounce off it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have a tire where you've let some of the air out, it's gonna like kind of wrap around. That's like a softer stone where it's gonna like kind of caress and fill in the gaps on those high and low spots.
Yeah. So that's the that affects the finish on the knife. So that the softer stone will blends them really nicely. It touches the little high spot, low spots, and blends them very good. Where harder stones will kind of shows the more of the like high low spots. Another part is the sharpness. It's not really the sharpness. The great thing is about hard stone is that it retains the flatness for longer. So when you're putting the last final edge, you get much more precise edge. And also it doesn't, I guess, it doesn't. Softer stones sometimes you feel like if you push it down, if instead of giving a really nice V edge, it kind of gives you natural convex edge. Because it kind of cushions it down a little bit.
I also find I tend to gouge soft stones.
Oh yeah.
Like I cut right into them with a knife, and so I honestly hate finishing my edge on soft stone. Again, I'm a lot less experienced than Naoto, so if that's your case, you'll probably also find the same problem.
Yeah.
CM Fuen said, "This has been great. Can you do a similar video for a Teriyasu Fujiwara Denka?" I think we could definitely do a video and maybe sharpening his knives in general. I have a Denka that I've sharpened a couple of times, but I've done a pretty mediocre job. So maybe
Got a whiskey knife?
With the whiskey knife, yeah. So maybe we could do that one.
Yeah.
In a couple of months. Yeah. Well, we'll look at the schedule, but we'll definitely pop it in there. And we had somebody second that idea, so I think that'd probably be a popular video.
So, something I'm just gonna show in the video here on the top part. Started to bring the bevel up here. You see, it's not as straight, right? Like it kind of the tip here, it blurs it a little bit, right? It's not as straight line. I don't know if you can tell. Like on the back side, this is pretty straight, right?
Yeah.
This is the one I started working, and it started to blur out at the right here. The reason why is that, again, this part is not designed to be beveled, I guess, to have the bevel on.
Right.
So it so you would expect that the blade road or the shinogi line would be quite a bit hard to make it really straight. If you keep working on it, it will go up about probably like here, but the it's really your preference. What I think though, for those of you who gets Takeda, to be quite honest, like this is my opinion, but if you get a Takeda, I know the expectation, right? It's thin, it cuts great, but it may wedge.
Yeah.
Know the expectation and get the knife accordingly.
Totally.
I would like
to use it accordingly too, right?
Yeah.
Like you know what it's going to be good at and not so good.
Yeah,
at.
exactly. And I wouldn't, because the Takeda has been fortuned that way, so it's a little bit different.
It's more of a feature than a bug. Like
if you want to make it like other knives, it kind of loses its uniqueness too, I think. So.
Yeah, Takeda's not like other girls.
Yeah. So you know what? It's just my opinion. If you do whatever you want for your knife, but that's my thing.
I think that's pretty fair. I mean I got nothing against modifying knives. So we do it all the time. But yeah, that is something to be aware of. Is that it's going to cut like a Takeda.
Yeah.
And nothing cuts quite like a Takeda.
Yeah. If you use it long enough, though, do whatever. Right? It's like if it's your first Takeda and try to thin it, don't do it. I mean, enjoy what the Takeda offers you, right? And after like 5 years of use and you don't really feel like it, then try to modify it. It's like going to a ramen restaurant and grab a pepper on the table right off the butt and put that on the ramen soup. It's like it's so like it's disrespectful, right?
That's a good analogy for sure. Now, if somebody wanted a knife that was super cool like a Takeda, but is gonna just fly through stuff. I mean, I've got a pretty new Hado Sakai Sumi.
Yes.
It's nothing like a Takeda. It's not thin. It's not as tall. But that's a super cool knife that does glide through stuff beautifully.
Yeah.
And still has good food release.
Yeah, if you like the thin knife and relatively decent food release, Kikumori Aogami, the Shiji one is pretty nice as well. It's made by a blacksmith in the Kyushu. That's all we could say. I know who made it. That's all we could say.
Now keep your secrets,
Yeah.
Naoto. Do we sell Ohira stones, and what is the shipping cost like to the United States? I'm gonna. If you go to knifewear.com, you can use the old search bar, but I'm gonna look it up.
Let's see if we have any Ohira right now.
We do. We have Ohira 30 model, 40 model, Type 40 thick, Type 40 Nankuchi.
Nankuchi is a great deal. Nankuchi means soft. Nankuchi stone is really good for the kasumi finishes, as well as basically there is like katakuchi and nankuchi and the strata, like for that one is in between the it's still Awasedo area, so it's still really hard, and it's not as soft as the say. It doesn't say. What's that? The proper description on that one?
On the
Nankuchi.
On the Nankuchi?
Yeah.
So that is like the title, Nankuchi Natural Stone Type 40.
What's the Ohira? Is there in?
Just Ohira Type 40.
Okay.
And then there's a thick Nankuchi Natural Stone as
Okay.
well.
Usually has the little bit of description of which strata that comes
Yeah,
from.
the other two that we have, the 30 and 40, are
Suita, right?
Yeah, Ipponsen.
Yeah. Ipponsen, yeah. The Suita is great for the it's a strata, but Suita is really good for finishing the kasumi. Ohira, if the knife, the stone doesn't have the strata name, it's usually a little bit harder from Ohira mountain. But because it has the Nankuchi name on it, it's a little bit softer. In comparison to Ipponsen doesn't really mean anything. It's just basically it's like Tokusen.
Deluxe.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
Yeah,
deluxe.
totally. Yeah. Okay, and shipping to the United States is free over $200 Canadian. So, which all of those stones are, because they're quite fancy. So, here's a good one from Niklas Backguard.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think about the paper test? If a knife doesn't go through clean, is it dull?
Paper test is not the sharpening. Well, we do the paper test because to make sure there's no burr and there's no chip left. It's not true cutting test though, right? As I said earlier, sharpness is determined by so many, like 4 different factors. I'm just checking the last edge, how toothy. I like toothy, so like you can hear the sound how it's cutting it. But and also there is no burr. It goes smooth, cleanly. That's all I'm looking at. There are a lot of tests that I've seen around, like cutting the paper towels, stuff like that. Our aim is really to sharpen the kitchen knives. So it really tells you what paper towel tests or other tests tells you is that how clean that, how straight the edge is and there's no burr or anything like that. And so it's great to test because it just really tells you. And I usually use the same paper over and over to, hear the sound difference and snags and how that things. But it's good. It's one of the test. I love the carrot test. One of those like Asian carrots that's a little bit thicker. Cut into it, resistance, bite. After you cut it into the discs, I try to make the julienne from there and see how that bites into it.
You did that in our differential grit sharpening video.
Yeah.
If somebody at the end of that video, if somebody
right.
wants to see the carrot test, it's a great trick.
I think that differential grit is maybe the answer.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool way to sharpen
Yeah.
knives. Definitely go. If you haven't seen that video that Naoto did last year, go check it out. Blank said, if you check out the Science of Sharp website, it shows that coarse edges, I'm guessing probably under a microscope, it shows that coarse edges don't actually have the serrated look that you might think. Yeah, I'm going to go check that out later. Lots of talk about people's preference of edge. Martin M. has the most important question. When is the Takeda restock? I had somebody on Instagram joking that the live stream should be not about how to sharpen Takedas, but how to get a Takeda. I said the FBI would probably shut that down because that's
it's
illegal information.
It's a rotation, right? Like
Yeah.
it seems like he's been sending the knives to some others, people. So it's just wait for
Yeah,
our
I think
turn.
he's just filling orders one at a time.
Yeah.
He's a little older. He had to take some time off.
Yeah.
So
He doesn't
his
do it
time.
this way. Like sometimes like you see the order comes in, like if I were him, I would probably gonna combine a few different guys order and make a whole bunch and slowly sending out. He's got a one order for one guy. Okay, he tried to fulfill that first, then move to the next. So that's why you see his knives popping up on different websites.
yeah, kind of one at a
sporadically.
time.
Yeah.
We have an order in. We pretty much always have an order in.
Yeah.
We announce it through our mailing list. That's the best way to find out about this stuff, but also on our social media.
Yeah.
When stuff gets restocked. You can sign up for back in stock notifications on the website, but that'll notify you right when it comes back in stock. We will give you more notice through our mailing list when it's going to come back in stock. So like a week or two out, we'll say, hey, we're getting Takeda knives. They're coming in right away. This is the day they're coming out. And that way, you're not scrambling at the last minute to order it. You know exactly the minute they're going to be on the
I think
website.
what we're going to do is again the launch, right? We'll announce it.
We'll send some out to each store. We'll make it fair. We'll
Yeah.
launch them kind of all at the exact same time so that people in store have more of a chance.
Yeah.
And but it's quick. Like you gotta be on the ball. I think last year they sold out in like 2 minutes. It's crazy. Somebody messaged me and was like, "Hey, this knife sold out. Didn't you get some of those?" And I checked. I was like, "Yeah, I guess it sold out already."
We did.
Iceman has a great question here. How do I take care and store my whetstones? What are your tips for building the perfect set of stones? Okay, we got 2 questions there.
Okay, so in order to keep your stones good, avoid any of the extreme temperatures. Like, don't forget if you're going now, or say sharpening class, and bring your stones, wet them, use them. Don't forget to bring it in your house where it's going to be minus 30 outside. But
don't leave them in your trunk or your garage, which might be tempting to do.
avoid any of the really hard extreme temperatures and temperature change, so as the direct sunlight. So after you use them, wash them. You don't really have to super clean them. Like, I don't think soap is not needed. Thoroughly wash them with water, wipe it dry, and dry them. Then store in the. I usually keep them in my cupboard or the just a storage space inside of my house. The set of stones that you may want, start from something like medium grit, 1000 grit. It's really good place to start. Then the really nice finish edge like 4000 is fantastic. And if you need a little bit more heavy lifting work, the coarse stone, 220 grit, 400 grit, those kind of stuff. So usually what we recommend is 3 stones: coarse, medium, fine. Then chewing stone for the maintenance. That really is going to start you off very good. It is sharpening is a big rabbit hole, or deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, you can get real lost in this stuff.
Yeah. Once you get into it, and it's a lot to learn, lot to.
This is really what this live series is for people that have already gone down the rabbit hole or considering
generally
it.
speaking, 3 coarse, medium grit, coarse, medium, fine, like 220, 400 coarse, 1000 to 1500 the medium, then like 3 to 4000 grit, fine. That 3 will set you up very good.
If you're short on space in your kitchen like I am and you have a lot of cooking tools already, I keep mine under the sink. It's a good spot. CM Fewen said, I just got a set of nanowatt diamond stones at 600, 1000, and 6000. 600 and 1000 are obvious game changers for me. What would you use the 6000 for?
That's a good question because I don't. And I don't think we carry the 6000 diamond either. It is going to probably give you a little bit more toothier edge than the regular 6000 would, because the slurry you don't get as much as slurry, I believe, so that it is more like a true Diamond 6000 edge. I like those like stones with the builds up a lot of slurry when it comes to the finer grit stones like 4000, 8000. I may be wrong because I haven't used that Diamond 6000 yet. But it is still should be a good stone to finish your edge with, right? The fine polish, that kind of stuff. But like I don't know if it gets super mirror polished. They may actually. Sorry, I can't speak to the stone that I've never used.
Yeah, we'll have to get you one to try out.
Yeah.
Jeff was asking, now that you have that sharp knife, what cutting board would you recommend that it won't shred to pieces? Because some of the softer cutting boards, I think, get cut up pretty easily. We had a debate about this in the office recently. Because I'm on Jeff's side, Naoto isn't, so maybe we can share our opinions about this.
Get the medium hardness. So, hardness in the wood is usually measured by the density, right? So it's not like in a Rockwell hard scale, right?
Yeah. There's the Jenka hardness scale.
Oh, is there?
Where they drop a metal ball from a certain height and measure the diameter of the... So it's kind of similar to Rockwell.
Yeah. Similar to Rockwell.
Yeah. Huh. So I use that to look up when people are asking me about different wood types.
Oh, I usually look up the density. Definitely the Paulownia boards are really soft. Density is like 0.2. I would usually recommend Kiri. Oh, no, that's a Kiri. Sorry, Paulownia. Hinoki is very popular cutting board in Japan, and that will definitely gonna leave the mark on the cutting board. But it feels the best when you're cutting on them because it almost like it hugs the edge, but it's not too deep, right? Like it. Oh my God, it feels so good when you're cutting on it. That's one of my favorite. Problem with the climate here in Calgary is that it's really dry, and you use them and it warps it very easy. So I think overall for the climate we're living in, like say if you're living in the coast and if you can take care of the Hinoki cutting boards, go for it. That's fantastic wood. But for where we are, I think the choice that we have, the larch wood, is really good. It does leave a little bit of cut marks, but not as deep. It is really well made, and larch is unlike other wood like a maple or the walnut, where leaves it's the wider leaves, right? Where the larch is the needles, right? The one of those trees with, it's like a pine.
Yeah, like evergreen coniferous. I think I'm so bad at remembering tree types, but yeah.
But so it is softer. It's hard. It's instead of hardwood, it's a softwood, I think. But it leaves that. But so it's really good. It's beautiful as well to take a look at, and it lasts very good. It doesn't shred in pieces. It's really good. So,
I definitely second that. Like the Paulownia boards are definitely like better for the edge of your knife because they're really nice and soft. I just don't like the way the boards look when they get cut up, and so if you're on the same page, which it sounds like you are, Jeff, those large boards, they're going to take some small marks, but they really kind of blend into the cutting board.
Yeah.
You barely notice them.
Yeah.
So I would definitely go that route myself.
Yeah. And if you don't like it neither, like there's options like really good ones like Hasegawa boards, like plastic with a wood core, so less warping, easy. You just throw in the dishwasher. It's great for your knife as well, so that's an option as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
they're pretty awesome. Foxy Wagon was looking for approximately a 60 grit diamond stone. I don't think we carry anything like that. Maybe Lee Valley.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty coarse. I'm curious what you're using it for.
Because
you might be better off with a sander at that point.
Yeah, our plate is the 140 grit, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty coarse.
Pretty coarse, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Jonathan Chia says, my 210mm Kiyotsuke wedges into my larchwood board quite a lot. Anything you'd recommend for an edge finish to help lessen this?
Put the little bit of stronger koba. That means instead of, say, if your koba is really shallow, like sharpen at, say, some people like to sharpen it really fine, like 10 degrees or even lower, and that way it actually cuts into the cutting board a little bit more. So to avoid that, take out really fine stone, like a 4,000 and up, and put the edge, the micro bevel, and you don't have to sharpen them that much. Put a micro bevel, probably 15, even 20. Few strokes will put the small micro bevel on them. That will prevent the knife sticking into the cutting board.
Awesome.
I had the same problem when I had the Usuba, and originally came from the little Koba, right? But I was like my first or second year Knifewear, and I'm like, I'm going to take this Koba off, and super keen, right? And every time I cut into the cutting board, it's like, but it bites and stops. It never got the really nice smooth cutting. So I'm like, that's what happens. Because you make the angle too acute, right? So it just stabs into it. But having a little bit of Koba will stop it from cutting into it.
Okay. I'm just gonna blast through a few here. Beans Pone said, what out of all the strop leathers is your favorite? We don't mess around too much with different leathers, to be honest. I know a lot of folks like to kind of compare different leathers, but we mostly just use like our basic veg tan leather veg tan cowhide that we have on our Knifewear paddle strop in it. We like it. Yeah. I like the suede side a lot because it's a little more grabby. It's really good for taking a compound.
As long as the like you're dealing with kitchen knives, you're not like shaving into micron level, right?
Yeah, if we're talking about straight razors, I have different opinions on that.
Absolutely, right? Like Cordovan, yes.
Yeah, I use like a $500 Cordovan. My Cordovan strop costs substantially more than my straight razor does.
Yes, so.
But yeah, for knives, I personally, kitchen knives, I just use cowhide.
Yeah.
Blank recommends using that 6,000 diamond stone for polishing edges on high vanadium carbide steels like 10V, S110V, and other stuff that I'm not familiar with. But yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Got some love for Hinoki wood, and it smells great.
Yeah, I know. It
smells so good.
So good.
I want like a Hinoki shower in my house.
Well, it's a thing, right? Hinoki.
Oh, do they use it for like saunas or bath?
No, they use the whole bath made out of Hinoki.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Do you have a guy that can get us one of those? P-Base 36 says, what's the difference between using oil or water on a stone? Are some stones made specifically for either or?
Not really. It shouldn't be. But once you put the oil on the stone, that's oil stone.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some stones that sells as oil stones. Even in Japan, they sell some of them sells as oil stones. Unless it's been already saturated with oil, I'm sure you can use them with the water. And it's a lubrication, right? So that shouldn't matter. Because the way we sharpen, it's like lots of hands-on, works on it quite a bit. Oil is not really greatest because it slips and loses control. If I were to just working on the edge like this, I'll be fine. But because putting a lot of I need a lot more control. I wouldn't use oil on any.
Oil also costs money. I mean, water does too, but not much. And it's oily and it's gross and it's messy. And just from the sensory side of things, I would not enjoy sharpening with oil if I was sharpening all day long. Iceman is saying Hasegawa boards, yay or nay? I give it a big yay. They're awesome.
It's great. It is designed really. I've used it. One thing I guess one of the maybe con, if I can come up with the con, is that the texture is a little bit more rougher, so it doesn't do sliding as much. It's great for they say sashimi slicing and this traditional Japanese cutting of like lifting up and do this motion. It grabs it.
Yeah, if you're gonna do like a Western rock chop and
It
slide the tip,
may
I think
actually
you might
does a
not
little
love
bit
it.
more resistance when
And
you're
I
actually
think if you're
doing
doing
the rock.
like finely chopping up a bunch of parsley and then you go to scrape it off the board, I bet it's gonna leave a bunch of crap behind.
Maybe,
like
yeah,
it's gonna
yeah.
get kind of dirty.
So if you have to talk about cons, that may be a con. It will,
I'm gonna use one in the next live stream for butchering, I think, and see
Yeah,
how
yeah.
that goes.
butchering is gonna be good, right?
I think
That's-
so.
Yeah.
You're not touching the cutting board that
Exactly.
much, anyways. Yeah. Okay. Lei Wang is asking where the Toronto location is going to be because we're opening up in Toronto this year. That's the main holdup right now is we don't have a location. I think there's a few neighborhoods that Kevin has in mind, but if you have suggestions, shoot an email to hello@knifewear.com and we'll pass them along to Kevin.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're doing is we're deciding the neighborhood and then looking for real estate. Thura asks what we recommend as a first natural stone, and we might need to ask for follow-up.
The natural stone's kind of hard, right? Because depends on what your expectation is for the natural stone. Whether you want to put the edge on, whether you want to finish the knife really nice in terms of the look to it. Say, like for example, this. I use the natural stone to finish this Takeda, but it's got nice contrast between, like fine, like it's got a nice look to it. There's like stones that's really great for a look. There's great for the edge. For example, when you are sharpening a straight razor, Ozuku is definitely really the great stone, and so as to put the edge on the kitchen knives because it's nice and hard, and it gets really keen edge, leaves keen and fine edge on. But at the same time, though, if you're trying to make it look like this with Ozuku, you will have very difficult time. So ask yourself what your expectation is with the natural stones, and what you want to do with it, I guess, right? If you want to just try natural stones, instead of looking for like mountains, go for something. It's called the shape of knife or the stones like koppa, which means like small like these guys, like small size koppa, or the razor type. Razor type is also really small, designed to do the straight razors with, or some naguras if you want to sharpen it this way. But if you want to sharpen it this way, look for the koppa size or the small size that is. Usually it's pretty inexpensive, and you can get a kind of hang of it because if you're not quite sure what your expectation is, those sizes are going to be great because you can kind of test the water out, right?
If we ever opened a store that sold natural stones, we could call it the Copacabana.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the last of our questions. So if you have any more last-minute questions, you got like a minute to pop them in chat. Once again, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. For everybody who's been supporting us over the years. Our channel's been doing really well lately, and it's all thanks to all of you. As I said, we hit 20,000 subscribers this week, which is a huge milestone. And I guess the next milestone is 100,000. We want that YouTube plaque. So it might take a little while, but I'm excited
We'll put the
to see
little
where
plaque
things go.
right here in the
right next to the Tojiro plaque there.
Yeah.
We've got some great videos coming out. We've got a really cool behind-the-scenes
Tojiro
tour,
factory.
Of the Tojiro factory. We don't pay as much lip service to Tojiro, but they make some of the most consistent, high-quality, and affordable Japanese knives out there. So we talk about them as well as their kind of more handmade side of things, and talk a lot about their process. So that's going to be pretty cool. The week after, we've got Sky with how to patina your knives, how to force patinas, 4 different techniques, kind of side-by-side comparison. We've got Colin with a video on, he's going to try some chukabocho skills, some of the crazy Chinese cleaver skills you see on the internet. He even cut a cucumber on my arm, which was one of the worst experiences I've ever had at work. So stay tuned for that. And we got another live stream in 2 weeks on March 3rd. Before that live stream, we will be drawing the winners for our raffle. So if you missed the very beginning of this episode, we have some very special rare knives in. We've got a, what do we have? A Tinker mini tank. We've got 2 Hinora River Jump 210mm Gyutos and a Shigefusa 240 millimeter Gyuto in the Kitaeji series.
Kitaeji series, yeah.
So there's a link in the description if you want to enter that raffle. It's free to enter. You put your email down and any of the knives that you're interested in buying. We'll draw names on March 3rd, live on YouTube here at about 1:30 p.m. And if we draw your name, you'll have the weekend to buy your knife. And then if we don't draw your name, you might get drawn on Monday if somebody else doesn't claim their knife. So it's a chance. It's something pretty rare and exciting.
Yep.
Now, do you got anything else to close out with? And then we've got a couple more quick questions, but...
No, that's good. The stay tuned on the videos that we've been creating, especially the Tojiro ones. Really good to shed the light on those makers that you don't get to see as much, because you get to see a lot of blacksmith stories, knife maker stories, but those people who's working there, like one of the interviews that we did with the one of the workers at the Tojiro factory was like, he's super experienced, like 17 years of experience in at the workshop, and in order to become good at what they're doing, like I was saying, it takes like 2-3 years to acquire the skill. So it's like it's great, and we are going to shed light on those people in near future as well, from the places where we went to visit, like Seki places, and we are going to focus more on those people in next year or so. So stay tuned on that. It's very interesting, and you'll be amazed. Like for those of you who's fascinated by those like Takedas, you'll be amazed how much thoughts and processes and how specialized they are about those. I guess people would think it's an interesting machine.
People think of it as like a mass-produced knife,
Yeah.
and it is compared to a handmade knife. But there's a hell of a lot of love and care
Yeah.
that goes into
Yeah.
making them. A surprising amount.
Surprisingly, yeah.
I always kind of wrote them off a little bit when I first started Knifewear, and then I got one, and then I learned about how they're made, and it's just like it's pretty cool. So,
Yeah, so-
I think everybody will enjoy that video.
Yeah.
And Grant said, I hope for more videos from Naoto's Japan trip. We have more coming out finally. We'll have one about a little more broadly about how factory-made knives are made, following the Tojiro one, and then we'll have one about Nigara Hamono the month after. So kind of every month we'll have a video about some of these behind-the-scenes kind of blacksmith visits coming out over the next year.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Me too. Okay, a few more questions before we go.
Yep.
Beans, Pones, lots of good questions today. Thoughts on Hitoriyama stones for kitchen knives?
It's good. Hitoriyama is a little bit more softer type stones, and it's great for kitchen knives for sure. It's generally speaking, what they say is that the softer stones are good for kitchen knives, and harder stones are for the carpentry tools as well as the like razors and stuff. So Hitoriyama is great.
Okay, we had a question. We're going to bring on a specialist. I'm sure Naoto has a good answer, but we have a special guest for this one question. So, Colin, if you want to pop on screen there, you're just going to have to talk into Naoto's microphone.
No, I'm just going to clip.
So, Iceman 10438 is asking Chukabocho, any tips for sharpening? And Colin here is the assistant manager in our Calgary store, and he did a video last summer about Chukabochos. We've got another one coming out in about a month about Chukabocho skills. Colin.
I think it depends on what it's going to be used for. One of the biggest considerations with any type of Chinese cleaver, whether it's Chinese made or if it's a Japanese Chukabocho, is are you going to cut bones? And if so, how big of a bone are you going to cut? So the bigger of a bone you're going to cut, then the wider of an angle you want to use. If it's something like a slicing cleaver, then a 15-degree angle. I tend to sharpen mine 50-50. Most of them come that way. I only have ever purchased one Chinese cleaver that had not a double bevel, or sorry, not a single bevel, but a single edge or very asymmetrical edge. Most of them come with a 50-50 grind. And yeah, so if it's really thin, then a 15-degree angle. If it's something like a civil and military knife, like a Mummo Do, or like a Cao Kong chopper or something that is going to cut some bones, then a 20-degree angle will be good. If you're like me and you want to be super nerdy about your sharpening, then with a dual purpose Chinese cleaver, you sharpen it at a 20-degree angle on the heel and then gradually taper it towards a 15-degree angle at the tip. And you have to hone it that way as well.
That's a good chance to drop that we have a new Chinese cleaver, a new CCK cleaver in the new arrivals section on the website. And yeah, check that out. There should be a photo soon. Iceman said, gonna cut vegetables, no bones or any meat. So probably a more acute angle then, hey?
Yeah, more of a 15-degree angle, I'd say.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Colin, and thank you so much, everybody that tuned in today, for all of your great questions, for supporting us. If you haven't given the video a like already, give it a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we'd appreciate that, assuming you didn't hate the video you watched today. And yeah, if you missed earlier parts of the video, there's lots of good knowledge, as well as the we show and tell of those rare knives that we're doing the raffle for.
Yep.
So go back and check that out. And yeah, thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Monday's video and the live video in 2 weeks on March 3rd. Have an awesome weekend.
Long weekend for
Long weekend in
a
Canada.
lot of Canadian people.
Yeah. Woo!